You know, this time of year, usually a good time for a water fight, unless that water fight involves farmers and lawyers and cutting off access to that water. Well, then it's never a good time. For those who don't pay attention to such things, there is a really big water fight happening right now in Idaho. A battle over water rights between who can use groundwater and who can use surface water. This conflict certainly isn't new to Idaho, with surface water users having more senior water rights and those with legal access to the water and canals. That's what that means. And the groundwater users who get the second option of groundwater access, having to get the water from actually underground. It's been that way in Idaho since, well, forever. First in time, first in rights is how it works in Idaho. But now there's a threat of curtailment for groundwater users because apparently they're not in compliance with an 8-year-old statewide agreement. Negotiations are continuing, have been for the last couple of days. Joe, you've been talking about this for, well, I guess even earlier this week, you kind of touched on this topic. What is happening today? What's the latest?
Well, at this point, the negotiations are ongoing, and at this very moment, I would imagine that the camps are still debating back and forth, and we'll continue to follow this closely, but really the major problem here, the Eastern Snake Plain Aquifer has been declining since the 1950s, and that's when groundwater pumping really increased for irrigation. So that has reduced the aquifer, or the groundwater levels, and the spring flows that end up feeding the surface water sources. So the issues between surface and groundwater users created the development of a methodology or a measurement to determine impact to senior water users. An agreement was finalized in 2016 between surface water and groundwater groups, and it required that groundwater groups have reductions of 13% across regions by each individual district. So there's also a dispute over how all of this is calculated. Idaho's Lieutenant Governor Scott Bedke, he helped to broker the 2016 deal, and he's now at the table trying to help and figure out this one too. The stakeholders, for the most part, are all up in Sun Valley, and they're basically in day 3 now of major negotiations. I spoke with the Lieutenant Governor a short time ago about what all Idahoans should know about this and what the temperature of the negotiations look like.
The average Idahoan needs to know that there are ongoing negotiations as we speak to fix this. And they're very pragmatic people on both sides of the issue and at the state level that want to avoid harming anyone economically, and that everyone's farm is important, and that we want to keep and maximize the number of acres that are under cultivation in Idaho each year. But when we do that, we also got to remember that it's a finite resource, and allocating scarce resources, whether it's money or water, is always is tricky business. But the take-home message today is that Idahoans need to know that we're on top of this, and we're working it out like Idahoans do, and that is at the negotiation table. And farmers negotiating with farmers is going to be a better outcome than farmers taking other farmers to court. Most of the water still in Idaho is still used for agriculture. And that's kind of what makes Idaho a great state, is all the agriculture that we have here. And whether that water comes from out of the ground or from the surface water systems, we all need to be careful with it.
Water has not been shut off yet.
To my knowledge, it has not.
In terms of the negotiations, what's the temperature in the room? I guess what's the optimism look like?
Well, it depends on the room. But these water districts have met. They met yesterday afternoon, and in the evening they met already today. And the reports that I hear are the basis of my optimism. I think that we may have gone up to the cliff and looked over, but nobody wants to jump yet.
So we are closely monitoring those negotiations. And again, as far as we know, no water has been shut off. And Brian, the goal is to not do that. We've heard from the groundwater users, whether you agree with them or not, their concern is losing water at this point will impact their fields, their agriculture, and then the trickle-down effect in terms of supply, in terms of equipment rental. There's a lot of, I guess, knobs and levers that are affected by these decisions, and it is very complicated. But every Idahoan and really everyone in this region is greatly affected by it.
I was going to ask, what is the, I don't know, the person in Meridian right now, how does this affect them should these negotiations continue on or water gets shut off?
Right. And so it may not, if water is shut off in the Eastern Plains, you may say, well, that's not my problem. Well, if you are someone that's buying something that is manufactured out there and they can't get as much crop out because of that, it's a major trickle-down effect. So we will keep an eye on this one.
All right, thanks.